All right, well, welcome to part two, short selling. This is a short glimpse of Carl Hagberg's full AMA on the Superstonk YouTube channel and the full effects of short selling, and it's basically what we don't see. This section focuses on short squeezes. All right. Now we know about short squeezes. We've read about them, and that's why we're all here, right? Gamma squeezes and short squeezes. But short squeezes happen every 3 years. Little short squeezes, little ones. They happen every so often, but the big ones, like this freaking thing we have right here at Gamestop, they happen very rarely. All right, and what we know about Volkswagen and everything too. And why are they rare? Well, shorting is one of the main core and of the hedge fund strategies. It's extremely profitable for them. All right, but then again, when a hedge fund decides to go short, what do? Well, they always announce it on CNBC. They make a report, stir up news. Hopefully, other banks are going with them and other retailers, individual investors. They usually do this. They only short companies which are overextended or on the brink of bankruptcy. So it's a pretty short thing. They hedge funds, they are, again, dealing with billions and billions of dollars, and they have to be pretty much 99% sure that these companies are going to be going on bankruptcy. Didn't expect this at GameStop, did you? Or AMC. But sometimes they're wrong. And this is what I want you to focus on this up section right here is coming up. Now, I want you to think of some things before we begin here. Think of supply and demand. Generally, as price increases, people are willing to supply more and, demand less, and vice versa, the price falls. Now, GME, the prices had lateral action, near zero volume, and of course, you hit those lunchtime spikes in volume. That's a big thing. Now, with AMC, we've seen the recent dark pool trading that makes price action and volume unexplainable, right? Of course, we've all seen that. Now, supply and demand doesn't really seem possible here in relation to the price action at all. People are just giving up and GME just watch just the little roller coasters that's going on with, AMC's been up quite a bit. And why is this all relevant? Well, in relation to short selling, it is very relevant, okay? Now, here are some questions to be explored in the next upcoming section of this. What's wrong with naked short selling? Number 2, what do these hedge funds gain by shorting a company? Number 3, what's the purpose of shorting a company to bankruptcy? Number 4, what do hedge funds get by lending out shares? Okay. Now the next part goes in these questions and gives even a lot more insight and a little more depth. So Carl Hagberg, with his decades of experience, gives a lot of insight and fantastic depth to further explain this in relation to GME, but also you can think about this in relation to AMC. All right, so let you go think about that, and get back to you later.
So let's see. What's wrong with naked short selling? I hope I kind of made this clear, that they create an economic dislocation, to put it kindly, and they basically, by providing unlimited liquidity, they basically take the most basic law of supply and demand and they throw it out the window, okay? Because now suddenly supply of shares is unlimited and demand, of course, is kind of sketchy, especially if you're spreading rumors that might be kind of sketchy too. So that is the biggest problem that there is with this. And the phantom shares themselves, everyone kind of knows, you don't have, you go to the supermarket, you don't have to count the carrots and the apples to know what's in demand and what's not, and what looks like good product and what's not. But it distorts when you have this many more shares floating out there. It distorts the market. The other thing is, let's see. Let me turn my page here and get control of myself. Well, this is basically it. Until the shares, the trade is basically settled by delivering a security so that can be canceled, so that the debits equal the credits, you're going to have this continue. There were instances where many of these firms were destined for failure, but they were being pushed down the drain twice as fast by everyone giving up on them and selling short. And so the SEC kind of woke up again and said, oh, maybe we need to look again. I have this little thing. It'll take maybe only a minute to read it. So in 2009, they published this big, thick thing here, and it was a report of the Office of Inspector General, of the Office of Audits of the SEC, and so they published this thick volume. And so here's what it said in the middle, and they made 11 recommendations, by the way. So toward the middle, it says, as we have stated on several prior occasions, which is an understatement, okay, we are concerned about the negative effect that fails to deliver may have on markets and shareholders. In addition, issuers and investors have repeatedly expressed concerns about fails to deliver in connection with manipulative, quote, naked, unquote, short selling. To the extent that fails to deliver might be part of manipulative, naked short selling, which could be used as a tool to drive down a company's stock price, such fails to deliver may undermine the confidence of investors. This, by the way, is the understatement of the year. Unwarranted reputational damage caused by fails to deliver might have an adverse impact on the security's price. Might have? Don't you read the newspapers? Well, anyway, so that's what they put out. So then they included 11 recommendations, okay, for the SEC to consider. And basically, it was to try to detect things early, get complaints early. They were mainly ignoring them, and then follow up on the complaints. Well, lo and behold, after all of this, only one of the 11 recommendations was adopted. And almost all, over the next few years, almost all of the temporary regulations they had put in effect around the time of the financial crisis, they all lapsed too. And Dr. T, who saw this with her own eyes, she saw the effect. What was happening in the business world was businesses were adopting new audit standards, and they called them risk-based standards, and it was, you judged risk by the dollar amount that's outstanding. Well, that's not really a bad idea. But when stocks, as Dr. T said, when the stocks keep falling, they're like problem 1 million on your list of problems. You decide which problems need attention by the size of the outstanding share value, and so they weren't cutting the mustard, and no one was paying any attention. We went along until the latest round that we're seeing now, where Gamestop and there were probably 3-4 other companies where people were selling shares, and there were what I call phantom shares outstanding and phantom votes, except those phantom votes were real votes that if you were lucky enough to get your vote cast, okay? And so that's it continued along until pretty recently. So and actually through the present. So let's see, what's wrong with naked short selling? I hope I kind of made this clear, that they create an economic dislocation, to put it kindly, and they basically, by providing unlimited liquidity, they basically take the most basic law of supply and demand, and they throw it out the window.
Where average trading volume, daily volume, is the 88 million. And the peak during that was 197 million, totaling 1.5 billion shares exchanged over 17 days. Does that not scream naked short selling to you?
Oh, absolutely. And but it also it's mathematically impossible for this to happen, except for the fact, and it's not just the naked part. That's important to focus on. It's short selling itself, but when you allow people to keep reselling these imaginary, to make these loans, if I lend you a shovel, you've got my shovel. But I lend you stock, and you get a voting right, and you get a credit somewhere, but you don't really have my stock. You know what I mean? But so, in other words, it's mathematically impossible to have trading volumes like this. And what it's done, it's pumped in this infinite supply of shares that can get bought by somebody, albeit at lower and lower prices. So yes, this is a problem in itself. It's not. There's no way around it. It's not a mystery. Okay, the numbers are clear. They are what they are. So I think the real thing will be, well, what happens now when the meeting convenes? Okay, and it could be that people are even today feverishly working in their back room to try to cook the books, and deprive enough people of voting of their votes that you won't see them anymore. So that would be one thing. And so we'll see what happens when the annual meeting convenes. But if there aren't more shares present, uh, as votes present than there are shares, I'll eat my hat. It's almost impossible to fix this, even in the darkest of dark rooms. So that's probably problem number one.
All right, so that was Carl Hagberg on going through all this. Now, we know about the 2008-2009 financial crisis. They brought out the rules, and a lot of new rules and a lot of new regulations. But were they ever adopted or enforced? Some yes, some no, and some just basically just kick the can further down the road. And we've seen this continuous. So in this next section, we'll discuss this in part 3, because this is important for the social movement that we are in right now, because this is the movement that's bringing a basket of unsolved situations and rules to the forefront and discussion of newspapers, media outlets, and even to the financial committees in the Senate. All right, now this is a short glimpse. Again, this is part 3 of Carl Hagberg's AMA and Superstonk YouTube channel. And when you go into this, because this is the kind of the final section that he goes into, and I think it's very relevant, and I love hearing him talk about this with atobitt as a great moderator. He's done fantastic due diligence on this. So yeah, go take a watch.